From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and Million Dollar Listing, this is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report, where we count down the top 10 things that made us go wow.
Wow.
I'm co-founder of World of Wonder, Fenton Bailey, joined as usual by James St. James, editor of the Wow Report. And standing in for Tom Campbell this week, the very special friend and journalist and writer from The Hollywood Reporter, Seth Abramovitch.
Yay! I'm the bear in waiting this week.
How are you?
I'm amazing. I had a great week.
This is your fourth time on the Wow Report. I can't believe you continue to tolerate us or you answer our calls.
You guys are the best. You're my favorite, whatever you call this, podcast, radio show. I love you guys.
Your favorite mess.
Yes, exactly.
Let's start with the countdown. Number 10.
Number 10.
Number 10, I wanted to start with Seth. I wanted to ask him a few questions. He created a lot of buzz the other week when he interviewed reclusive icon Shelley Duvall for The Hollywood Reporter.
Yes.
I just wanted to sort of get your thoughts on Shelley and how the article came to be and how you found her, because I know there's, people worry about her a lot, and just what your takeaway from the whole thing was.
Well, the takeaway, I'll start with that. I'm thrilled. It couldn't have been received any better. I obviously, there was a lot of apprehension going into it. I just followed my heart with it. I felt compelled to do it out of a genuine fondness for her. It was a great meeting her, and I had a great time. And, it was right before this horrible storm hit Texas, and it was warm and just a lovely place to be and nice to get out of LA and be there. And I wasn't sure how people would react, but they got it. They understood that she's deserving of our love. And
Shelley is someone who it is for movie buffs. She's been in Nashville, she's been in The Shining, she's been in Popeye, she's the Fairy Tale Theater. She really sort of covers the waterfront in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And then she disappeared for many, many years, decades, in fact. And then she resurfaced on Dr. Phil. And I think that's where a lot of people were worried about her. And so talk a little bit about how the state that you found her in and what you thought.
She suffers. There's no candy coating this. She has mental illness. And, I did not delve there. It's hard to talk to someone with mental illness about their mental illness if they're not aware. I don't think she's aware of it. And I don't know what treatments she's had. That area of the story I kind of tread very lightly because I just didn't know, and I didn't want to push on that.
But did she seem lucid when you were talking to her? And she seems like she was very much with it, and she knows who, she's telling stories and she's being
yes. I mean, there was a mixture of coherence and great stories and laughs and then some other stuff. Now, the beauty of writing a piece like this is I can be highly selective in what I share. And I came with an amazing photographer. His name is Eric Anderson. He.
I love that first picture of her. It's so heartbreaking and beautiful, and just it tells so many stories.
It so does. He was brilliant, and it was amazing when the camera was on her. Something happened. She still had it, and her eyes would soften, and this little girl would emerge, and she knew how to work the camera. And of course, I was very hopeful that the photos would be real but tender and show a beautiful side to her. But until I saw the photos, I wasn't sure if the story was going to work. When I saw the photos, I was like, okay, we're in business. I can capture the Shelley I see. So those were very helpful to me. Now, I think people are going to want to interview her now, and it's going to be harder.
I do love the fact that I remember this from another story about her years ago, where everybody in the town is very protective of her. And I think that is so sweet that everybody looks out for her because she's not the star. She's not a huge, they don't treat her like a star. They treat her like she's a friend, she's part of the town. And she's
very much a part of the town, and everyone knows her, of course. But it's less as, oh, she's a movie star, and more as, she's sort of this eccentric local. But they know how to treat her. We went to this cafe and they know what she likes and they bring it out to her the way she likes it. And it was very heartwarming to see that.
Sounds like kind of place I should go. What did you with the Phil Donahue thing happened? Phil Donahue? Dr. Phil. So that was a while ago, right? So what prompted you to reach out and try and find her and connect?
So I do this thing. It's at the back of every Hollywood Reporter called 91 Years of the Hollywood Reporter. And it's like a historical page. So it was recently the 40th anniversary of Popeye, and which was sort of how I fell in love with her, as a little 7-year-old, 8-year-old boy. And that's how I discovered her. And I loved that movie. And I watched it again because it had been so many years since I'd seen it. And it really holds up. It's really a great film. It's very tenderly, beautifully done. Lots of great details. Of course, Robert Altman, who did a lot of her more adult films as well. But this is a kid's movie and it's great. So she just was in my head, as in, I love her. And then, of course, I thought of the Dr. Phil thing. And something, there was a disconnect, or it just felt wrong that when I think of her, that I think of the Dr. Phil thing. It just was like a bad, yucky feeling. And I didn't want to feel that way about her. So I just started thinking about her and, where is she and how's she doing since that thing? And I just started snooping around doing my, detective work, but it wasn't as hard to find her as I thought. It started with, there's a fan site called So Shelley Duvall. There's a Twitter and an Instagram, and they're very adoring of her. And I asked them if they had, knew how to reach her, and they said no, but they had some leads. And so I followed those leads. And it's interesting. There's a little and I talk about them a bit in the story, a kind of subculture of gay men who know where she is and are very but they kind of infight. There's been a lot of that's my photo, not your photo. They're on it, but the very few of them, and they're very territorial. But one of them helped me reach her, and then that started these phone calls. And I said, I want to, I write for the Hollywood Reporter, and I'd love to do something celebratory. And she was into it, and I went out there, and I didn't know if it would work. I didn't know if she'd show up. But she did. And we spent a whole day, and the photographer showed up, and it was kind of can we do this? And it all happened. So,
I really enjoyed when she talked about working on The Shining and working with Jack and working with Kubrick, and her memories still are very, very fresh, it seems, about that. And just of things that I didn't realize about how harrowing the shoot was. And it took, it was like a year, more than a year that they shot. And, he would do 127 takes of the staircase scene and things like that. That just, it really, those details that it's still fresh in her mind really make the piece just riveting.
It's a really great interview.
Thank you.
And we're going to post a link to that on the WoW Report. Seth, stay with us. We're going to keep counting down, and there's something actually I want to talk about a little bit later in the show that it sort of connects to this idea of people who are judged in the public eye one way, and then you find, it's a totally different story. So please stay with us. James, what is number 9?
Number 9.
Number 9, Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar, the movie, my favorite movie of the past decade. I'm just going to say it. It is probably the funniest movie I have seen in forever and ever and ever. It's Kristin Wiig and her bridesmaid writing partner, Annie Mumulo, I think her name is. And they co-wrote it and they co-starred together. It is just goofy, good fun. Barb and Star are two kooky best friends from the Midwest, and they get fired from their job that they work at, and so they go down to Florida to this Vista Del Mar, and they fall in
a real place.
What?
Is that a real place?
No, it's totally. They totally made it up. Jamie Dornan. They both fall in love with Jamie Dornan from 50 Shades of Grey.
Who's so cute in it?
He is so good in it. He is so adorable and just loose and funny. He has a big musical number on the beach that's hysterical. Yeah. There's like a talking crab. There's musical numbers. There's a lounge singer who only sings about boobs. Yeah. The movie just bubbles along, and it's with its own logic. It makes no sense, and if you just give yourself up to it, it was the thing that I needed going into year 2 of the quarantine.
I'm with Seth, you. Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
I watched it last night. Yeah, hilarious.
And I just, like I said, Jamie Dornan walks away with the whole movie. There's a super villainess who's trying to destroy Vista Del Mar with a swarm of mosquitoes, and so he's her henchman. And so he gets to, he's just, I want to see more of this Jamie Dornan. I don't know if you ever watched Once Upon a Time, the Disney show.
With all the like fairy tales?
Yes. He was Robin Hood, I think, on that. And he was on it for like a year, and he was really fun. And this was pre 50 Shades of Grey. And he sort of showed a side of himself that you haven't seen lately. So I'm glad that he's back to being fun again.
Is he a Brit?
He is.
Yeah.
He's
and he leans into the accent in the movie.
Yeah. It's really cute. It's so wackadoodle. You wonder if they even had a script. It just felt so improv the way.
Well, because they were both they met at the Groundlings. I think both Kristin and Annie were. So I think they've been improving together for 40 years, 30 years. So they really worked well together, and I had a blast.
I absolutely.
I had it too. Yeah.
I was so interested because, they lose their job at Jennifer Convertibles. Spoiler alert, because Jennifer Convertibles closes.
The hottest spot in town.
I know, right? And I was wondering, well, did Jennifer Convertibles really close? Because it's one of those brands that you're aware of, but has never really been cool. It just sort of lurks in the background. So I was like, maybe Jennifer Convertibles really did go bankrupt, but they didn't. So how Jennifer Convertibles?
You did your research. You did a little backstory research.
And how they let themselves be portrayed that way. But it's bubbling with sort of middling brands, isn't it? Like it's just the craziest thing.
Yeah, Tommy Bahama.
Yes. Tommy. And then they meet Tommy Bahama. Tommy Bahama.
It's good.
Oh, and I love Yo-Yo, how it begins. The whole film begins, and you think it's going to be like a kids movie. It's just so many like Shaggy Dog stories and little.
Well, it's like one of those SNL sketches that just goes on and on and on, and you never know where it's going to go, but somehow it works. And it's the best of Kristen Wiig, and I love her to death.
Totally.
That's Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar. Is available on demand.
Number 8.
Seth, I want to keep talking about the Shelley Duvall thing because I just recently saw an article in the New York Times that was about how the Menendez brothers, after the Menendez brothers murdered their parents back in the 80s, and they were roundly condemned at the time. They, in the trial, said they'd been abused by their father. People laughed at them. They were laughing stocks. They were just seen as rich boy, Beverly Hills sociopaths. And they were locked up for the rest of their life, and that's where they are. And so I saw this article in the New York Times last week sort of saying there's a movement of TikTokers and Instagrammers, kind of like, I guess, the Free Britney movement, of people saying free the Menendez brothers and Menendez supporters. And it tickled me because a few years ago now, Reddy and I made a movie for Lifetime called Menendez Blood Brothers. But very much
with Courtney Love as Kitty Menendez.
Absolutely.
Really?
And Nico Tortorella as one of the Menendez brothers. And very much taking the point of view that, yes, that it seemed to us from doing our research that they were sexually abused, and that abuse led them to commit this horrendous crime. And then then I started thinking, well, this is interesting because, I was thinking about Donald Trump, who in the 80s was seen as a big business success. Rudolph Giuliani in the 90s, seen as this amazing mayor and hero. Harvey Weinstein, seen as a sort of savior of Hollywood, versus, say, Larry Flint, who was always seen as a low-life pornographer, or Tammy Faye Baker as a joke, or Britney Spears as a bimbo, or Monica Lewinsky as a homewrecker. And I suddenly think, oh my gosh, by like almost everything we thought, the way we judged people in the 80s and 90s, it was all completely wrong. And I feel in a way Shelley Duvall experienced that, got that treatment.
Certainly, I agree that, a lot of these men, I think there's a sexism there, where you listed a lot of men that were admired. And, I think a blind eye was turned to some of their more nefarious activities, like Harvey Weinstein. People knew. There's a lot of whispers about it. The Britney thing, that was an interesting documentary, but I felt like a lot was not explained in it. I mean, she did a lot of these things. I agree that the fame probably was hard to deal with, but the way everyone turned on Justin Timberlake, not to change the subject, but it felt a little unfair to him, I think. I don't know.
No, James, you were waving your hands. I told you.
I think I was just sort of dancing to my inner, beat or whatever. But I just wanted to mention, though, it's hard not to realize. It's hard for people today to realize how different the 80s and 90s were in mentality, where the whole greed is good type of ethos was what people believed in. And you don't realize how conservative, and I know we've talked about this on the show before, how conservative this generation of youngsters really is. With cancel culture and, the TikTokers, everybody, the feeling in the air is just different. And we would celebrate people like Harvey Weinstein and Woody Allen and Donald Trump and things like that in the 80s and 90s, because it was just such a very different time. Then, even though we knew that they were probably bad people, we celebrated bad people. It was something subversive in the air, and part of the way we thought that doesn't fly anymore.
And the 2000s, we had, tabloid culture and, the advent of TMZ and all that, and Perez Hilton. And it was, people were enjoying making fun of celebrities. Now, I think people are more protective of them.
Yeah. But I also think you can't discard the idea that, Twitter and Facebook and everything have brought people together so that they can find other people who are just as outraged as themselves and sort of band together and clump together into a cancel culture. For sure.
Well, I just wonder if 10 years from now we'll look back on all the people we think are amazing or villainous now, and if the whole thing will have flipped once again, I guess.
Eventually, cancel culture will come for you.
That's what you love to say, James, because you just can't wait, can you? Let's take a break. I just got to say, Vojnarovich, Fuck You, Faggot Fucker, premieres in theaters and video on demand 1 month from today. That's March 19th. It's being distributed by Kino Lorber in the US. And it'll be also at the Film Forum. So go to filmforum.org to get tickets. Blake, have you got a question?
Of course I do. I know all of us probably know the answer to this question, but I think everyone should know. So, what radio show host had a segment during the AIDS crisis where they would read names of gay people who had died of AIDS on air, playing air horns and celebratory whistles?
All right, that's the question we should all know the answer to. You're listening to the Wow Report on Radio Andy. We'll be right back after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hey, welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James St. James, of course, and in lieu of Tom Campbell, the incomparable Seth Abramovitch. Welcome. We're counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow. And Blake, you had a question for us before the break.
Yes, I know we all probably know the answer to this, but What radio show host had a segment during the AIDS crisis where they would read names of gay people who had died of AIDS on air, playing air horns and celebratory whistles?
Hateful, hateful, hateful man. We could have done a whole top 10 horrible things that he did on the air. Seth Benton.
Rush Limbaugh.
Yes.
That's right. May he rot in pieces.
I didn't know about the AIDS thing till yesterday, till he died.
I didn't either, but that's just fucking horrible. A horrible human. And
well, remember he used to make fun of Chelsea Clinton when she was 12, 13 years old, calling her the White House dog. I mean, just a horrible, horrible man. And to see Twitter sort of divide itself with Republicans celebrating him and the rest of the world, you know, wishing him, you know, burning in hell. It's interesting.
It was a good day that he died, also because they blew up the Trump casino in Atlantic City.
Yes.
It's quite a satisfying thing to witness.
I loved watching them both implode.
Let's carry on with our top 10 countdown. We've reached number 7. Seth.
Number 7.
So let's talk about Drag Race UK first. Can you give me some background about the shutdown, the 7-month break? How horrific was that in terms of production?
It was amazing because I literally, the day I arrived in the UK to film season 2, I saw a Evening Standard billboard saying epidemic arrives in the UK, and I was thinking, this isn't good. And so we'd only shot like 4 episodes when we realized, I mean, I think the fear, there was an intense level of fear because no one really knew what we were dealing with. So we had to shut down.
Wait, this was February last year, February, March, when was
March.
it?
It was March.
Okay.
And then because of Rue's schedule and shooting the US, we weren't able to return for a full 8 months. And of course, luck being, the day we return, the UK goes into a second lockdown. So talk about timing. Though fortunately, in the UK, people such as ourselves in television are seen as essential workers. But it was amazing because when the Queens came back into the workroom after 8 months, they all looked totally different. They'd had their teeth done, filler.
Sister.
Yes.
Completely different person enters. Did you not tell them to like try to maintain the same?
Well, the Queens, you can't tell them to stay. You can't tell them anything. I sort of have a crush on, I can't remember, I don't know all their names. This sort of a little chunky little bleach blonde. Who's that one?
Ellie Diamond.
Oh, Ellie Diamond. He's sweet.
I think he's really cute. I think he might be my favorite.
And the one who left I liked him a lot. The transformation from nerdy little like accountant to like boom.
Yes, I like. What was that one? Who's that?
Something Green.
Veronica Green.
Veronica Green, yeah.
Yes, okay, yeah.
I was sad to see him go, but I'll look forward to him in the next season.
Okay, well, you can watch this week's brand new episode of RuPaul's Drag Race UK streaming on Wow Presents Plus. Sign up at wowpresentsplus.com. I keep on saying it's $3.99 a month. First week is free, and that's less than the price of a latte. That's so much.
And it's on Apple TV now, which I love.
Yeah, and Roku. It's an immersive environment thing.
Yeah, it feels like Disney Plus, except with a lot more bulges and things.
A bit more tucking.
Sometimes some bulge.
James, what have you got? Number 6.
Number 6.
Well, speaking of Disney, the trailer for Cruella dropped this week, and it looks like they're trying to do a Joker type a movie here. It's Emma Stone starring as the young Estella Deville, I believe before she calls herself Cruella, and it's set in punk rock London, where she's a designer, and it talks about her burgeoning interest in puppies. I don't quite know, but I don't know that I'm there for the outfits. She looks like Manila Luzon meets Sharon Needles. But does Cruella DeVille need a backstory? I mean, she's pure evil. She kills puppies for fashion. I mean, we don't need to soften her image or give her a backstory like Maleficent, which I hated Maleficent. I thought it ruined the character. I mean, sometimes an evil villain just is an evil villain, right? Does anyone have any thoughts on this?
I'll see it. I mean, why not?
I was very excited for it, and then I watched it and I kept thinking, well, is this really necessary? Like, do we really need?
No, of course it's not. None of these Disney remakes and like adaptations are necessary, but London again, UK, Drag Race UK.
It's the other thing that dropped this week was the announcement from Netflix that Wednesday Addams was going to get a standalone series, and it was going to be directed by Tim Burton. And Wednesday was going to be in college, and she was going to be dealing with her psychic powers, and she was going to be solving crimes. And there was a serial killer on the loose on the campus. And I kept thinking, we love Wednesday. I mean, how long have we wanted a Wednesday series? But this just sounds like she's solving crimes. I don't know.
That actually brings in the Shelley thing, because there was a bit on Twitter. Netflix was getting taken to task for saying that this is Tim Burton's first TV foray, when in fact he directed an episode of Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theater for Showtime,
the
Aladdin one. And it had Valerie Bertinelli as the princess, and James Earl Jones as the genie. And someone posted some screen stills from it on Twitter, and it's classic Tim Burton backdrops and drawings. And I think the fact that it's Tim Burton it makes it an exciting project.
It's true, and I as much as I hate these, I mean, I do watch Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which sort of sounds like the same kind of thing. It depends on who they get. I wish Christina Ricci could have done an adult version of Wednesday, but I'll definitely watch it too.
I wish someone would challenge Tim Burton to make a movie without computers, because all his early movies had no computers and they're amazing. And then as soon as he got CG, they just got very forgettable to me.
Well, if he can make a movie without Johnny Depp, I think people got lazy for a while there and just kept doing the same sort of white face, creepy.
The Alice in Wonderland. I'd love him to just challenge him to do that. I
would like Tim Burton to just break out of his shell and do something interesting and new. So we'll see.
All right, then let's move on to. I've lost count. 10, 9, 7, 6, 5. Number 5. Yeah, number 5.
Number 5.
Well, Seth, speaking of Drag Race, I was just literally last week in New Zealand, where we were filming Drag Race Down Under, the first season of Drag Race Down Under. And it was amazing to be in New Zealand because it's COVID-free place. But as happened was, the last day we were filming, 3 new cases in New Zealand, 3 cases of COVID were announced or discovered.
They were Fenton Bailey, Tom Campbell, and
I was going to say Michelle Visage.
Yeah.
What happened is they take this very seriously in New Zealand, so they immediately locked down Auckland, and we were so lucky because we literally had wrapped filming on the last day, a couple of hours before, and had we still been filming, that would have been it. We wouldn't have been able to complete the
But you do see that that wherever you go, there are outbreaks and the country closes down. You aren't making any connection there. I find that a little
well, for
bubble harder.
I literally went from the set to the airport to catch my plane, and I get there, and there's when you get to the airport and you look at the board and it says new time, and you're like, this doesn't look good. And then over by check-in, you see a group of people. Instead of people like standing in a line, there's a sort of cluster of people. I was just like, oh shit. And so what happened was these 3 new cases, it started with the catering for Air New Zealand. She got it and her family got it. So as a result, Air New Zealand canceled all their flights. So I was sort of stuck in New Zealand.
So is the show Kiwi Drag Race, or is it Aussie Drag Race? Like, what's down under?
It's a combination of Aussie and Australia. So it's Drag Race Down Under. That actually is not
New Zealand and Australia.
Yeah, it's a
But
combination.
they consider themselves very different from each other, right? Australians and
Yes, I mean, Down Under is what we're calling it, but they don't typically refer to themselves as Down Under.
Mhm.
Well, what was it today that I saw on your Instagram where you had a Australian politician talking about what a missed opportunity it was to not let the Drag Race people into Australia?
Yes. Kate Jackson. Let's see.
Not Charlie's Angel or Dark Shadow Star.
I want to get her name right. Rose Jackson. That's right. Not Kate Jackson. Rose Jackson is an MP in Australia, and she went onto the floor of the Australian Parliament to lambast the authorities for failing to secure Drag Race Down Under to be produced in Australia itself. Because instead we were shooting in New Zealand.
Originally, you planned to do Australia, and then because of COVID, you had to move to New Zealand. Is that correct?
No, it was actually New Zealand came in with some, these things are sort of co-production. We needed some funds from New Zealand as well as Australia to make it happen. So
the sheep in New Zealand are some of the best drag queens in the world. So I tell you, one lip sync for your life with "I've Been to Paradise but Never Been to Me" from Priscilla, because that's one of my favorite lip syncs of all time, and you haven't done it yet on any Drag Race.
You are right. I love that song. Who is it?
It's one of the best songs of the 1980s. I will go for yes.
Is it 80s or is it 70s?
I think it's like 81 or something, because I remember hearing it driving to high school with it on and singing.
You remember the scene in Priscilla when he does it at the beginning?
Yes.
So good.
It is absolutely perfect. Yes.
That's my request.
Well, it will be done.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Oh, we got to move on to a break, right?
No.
Oh. I think we are. I think we have reached the break point. You're listening to the WoW Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders WoW Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the WoW Report. I'm Fenton here with James St. James and Seth Abramovitch standing in for Tom Campbell.
Blake, your beard makes you look like a Civil War soldier.
Thank you. I can't decide if I want to cut it off or wait until I get the vaccine.
I think it's more like a pioneer settler, like one of those pictures like you see of like the crazy inbred families out in Las Vegas.
How dare you?
like you're out there sifting for gold.
We're getting down the top 10 things that made us go wow this week. And Blake, I think it's number 4. I think don't go away. Why'd you leave us?
Number 4.
That is me. That's right. I'm number 4. James and I were talking, and have you noticed that there's like 8 million game shows on TV now? We have
the entire ABC primetime slate now is game shows.
I know. I've recently fallen into this, and I love almost every one of them. I don't really get into like the Masked Singer or the Masked Dancer anymore. Kind of weird, but
I fell off those too. Yeah.
Yeah, but my favorite right now, I love the Jeopardy one. It's called The Chaser or something. It's where the 3 Jeopardy champion people, Ken Jennings and the 2 other guys, I forget their names. They are the chaser, and you have to get like so far ahead in the trivia questions, and then they can like kind of come up behind you, and you don't want to get caught by the chaser.
What channel is that?
I believe it's on ABC, but I'm not sure.
Do you watch The Wall?
I do. The Wall, I love.
Uh-huh. Have you been?
Is that the one where the wall is pushing you?
No. It's like kind of like Plinko. Is that the game on The Price is Right, where you put in it's a ball and it goes down the pegboard wall and falls into one of these like categories that go from like $1 to 1 million, and then you have like negative falls which take away money, and then at the very end your partner who's backstage has to decide whether to sign the contract of your guaranteed money, which is usually like 100 or 200,000, versus did you make millions on the wall or did the wall give you $0?
And that's the one that has the really hot host that I love so much from Talking Dead, right?
Chris Hardwick.
Yes, I love Chris Hardwick so much.
From Singled Out.
What?
From Singled Out.
Yes. Do you watch Name That Tune? Because I
was
I
about
love it.
I was about to talk about that next. Yes, I love it, and I feel like I should be on that show. I can guess the tune normally just from the clues. And we talked about this earlier, and you were saying they were so hard. I didn't. Some episodes they are harder, but
I just, like when someone says, like they'll give like she was they'll say some obscure clue, and then the person will say, I can name it in one note, and you're like, how on earth are you naming this? Are you psychic? You can do that.
I can do that.
Oh, I want to get you and Tom Campbell and Rue together and watch you guys play this, because it absolutely stuns me. I have been obsessed with. I know you watch all those house flipping shows on HGTV, and I always sort of ugh. And then I fell into a hole the other day watching them, and it was like 24 hours of just one after the other, and now I'm obsessed.
I love it. Which show did you watch? Do you know?
The one where they pit the two people against each other, and
it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. Although I did hear that they filmed 2 endings, and the producers just pick whether they love it or list it at the end.
Well, that's Drag Race, frankly.
Stop. What are you? What's your TV guilty pleasure or obsession?
Well, yeah. So pretty much any night of the week, you can find some game show on TV. So that's that. I will say I tried to watch the new one with Jason Biggs, Cherry's Wild, but it was preempted by fucking NASCAR.
Oh, I was so pissed off because Bob's Burgers was preempted by NASCAR too, and that destroyed my Sunday. Seth, what are your quarantine guilty pleasures?
Let's see. I watched regular Jeopardy every night, and I like Ken Jennings on it.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. You don't like him?
Well, I like him on Twitter, but I don't find him compelling on camera. But I haven't watched it, so maybe I'll give it a shot.
Well, he's very polite, He's like, well, he's a nice American boy, But I like the fact that he probably knows most of these answers. Like that's what I want in a host, just someone who actually knows the answer.
Well, I'll say you should check out the Chaser show.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah,
and I've been watching the Cecil Hotel documentary on Netflix.
Yes.
And the Night Stalker documentary, and they both share the Night Stalker, same serial killer, so that's always nice. And then I also watched The Ripper, which was like the British Jack the Ripper, but from the 70s, the 80s. So a lot of serial killer documentaries, and they always give me trouble sleeping, and I want to change the locks on my apartment.
I would suggest getting Discovery Plus. I talked about this last week, but they have all kinds. They have crime shows, they have house shows, they have everything.
Okay.
All right. So, gosh.
3, me.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Yes, number 3.
Number 3.
I wanted to talk a little bit about vagina-scented face masks, which are all the rage lately. I don't know if you knew this. There is first of all, that vagina-scented candles, of course, started the craze with Goop and World of Wonder's very own Charisma, Uniqueness, Nerve, and Talent candle, which is for sale at the WoW store. Check it out. But now we've moved on to face masks because we are in the middle of a pandemic. And there's a fetish site called Sniffer, which sells used panties and socks and jock straps and things. And
can I ask a question? Whenever you say face masks, do you mean like face mask or like face mask for?
No, I'm talking about the actual pandemic face masks.
Okay.
In fact, they say that the best ones to use are the cotton ones, the 3-ply cotton ones that you buy at the drugstore, because they hold scent in longer. And what you commission these people to do is to put it, to put the mask in their thong for a couple days and let it really soak up the juices and the scent.
But
And
can you get COVID from pussy juice?
well, that's what I'm about to talk about in just a second. But you can also have the face mask put in. You know, they can be farted on. They can be worn out with their socks to get the smell of foot, you know, in there. And there are connoisseurs, of course, who love these things. And they talk about how the surgical ones, the 3-ply, you can also have like skid marks have in the back. You walk around town with your own little private secret, you know, sniffing your farts and all that stuff. And it's taken on a whole life of its own. The site is really taken off. They do say that although the coronavirus does not last on surfaces very long, it can be found in fecal matter. So if you do have a skid mark on the inside of your mask, you wear it at your own risk. Although vaginal juices do not carry the coronavirus. So it depends on what it is that you're getting from sniffer. But it's just a nice little thing for the fetishists out there.
So they don't do ball scented masks?
You can.
Oh.
I'm sure that there's a ball. Yeah. I haven't done it yet. I should probably try these first before I talk about them. But I just wanted to put it out there as a public service announcement.
Well, in the 90s, I remember like doing a thing about in Japan, you can buy used panties from vending machines. And we did a little behind the scenes report about it and learned that actually they make them with soy sauce. And they just dab a little soy sauce on them, and that's how they get the vagina scented smell. I'm not.
Wait, are you saying the vagina? I'm not. I don't know this, but there's a similarity in the sense between.
Well, again, I'm probably not the person to ask, but this is this is what we learned, because I think the thing is, James, I'm imagining that after a certain period of time, an authentically stained face mask, the smell would wear off, whereas soy sauce is quite potent, and I think it would.
I also imagine mass producing it would be a little hard because you'd have. I mean, you know, it's easier to just to have to actually wear it for a couple of days for each one. You can't really
just get them from women's prisons like they did on Orange is the New Black.
Well, that's true. There you go.
You know those trees that smell like semen? They bloom and they smell like semen. You ever smell them?
Oh yeah. Wasn't there like the what's the one that smells like sulfur that every 15 years it blooms?
Oh, well, there's a corpse flower.
The corpse flower, that's it. Yeah. But you're saying there's a semen tree?
Yeah, a tree that blooms and it gives off the smell of.
Was it the jacaranda?
What?
Jacaranda or something?
That would be the jack-off-aranda.
The jack-off-aranda.
I think Tom talked about them last spring.
Oh, well, yeah, I haven't had a sense of smell since the 80s, so I don't.
But I'm going to go sniff my soy sauce right after we finish here. See what that's all about.
Number two. Oh my God, number 2, Snowpiercer. Have you watched Snowpiercer season 2?
No. In fact, the last time I was here, you talked about Snowpiercer season 1.
Well, that must be why. I kind of grew to like Snowpiercer 1, but oh my God, Snowpiercer 2 is amazing.
Can I start at 2? Or do I have to watch 1 first?
No, you don't have to watch 1. I'll tell you what. Essentially, what happens in Snowpiercer 2 is that the train is going around the world. It's the end of the world, the apocalypse, and the train is going round and round and round. And another train latches onto it. And basically, this train is called Big Alice. And on board this train is Mr. Wilford. And Mr. Wilford is the man who created the train in the first place. But in the first season, he got left behind at the end of the world because he was a terrible, evil man. And Jennifer Connelly, who is so lovely, she was a sort of engineering genius, and she stole the train. So that was season 1, Jennifer Connelly and David Diggs. I mean, great. I love them both.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely great. But in this season 2, Mr. Wolford catches up with the runaway train, rams it, and it is incredible. Mr. Wolford's played by, I forget who it is, a Brit guy who's just very evil. And there's a really creepy scene in which he makes his valet get into the bathtub with him and makes his valet slit his wrists. And the blood fills up the tub. It's very dark, and there's appropriately, a self-harm warning. But this whole thing has taken on a sort of a really Gormenghast, sort of grotesque, dark thing. There's two mad doctors, like a sort of a lady and a man, and they're completely mad and they're experimenting on people. But the real breakout star is Alison Wright, who's in charge of hospitality on the train. And she's a fascinating character, because in the world of Snowpiercer, where on the train, it's all about class, and hospitality is the most important thing. It's like being a senator, and you're sort of, and she's just this really hard character, but with this sort of unwavering loyalty to Mr. Wolford. And then,
sort of like from what was the Hunger Games? What was the not Trixie?
Elizabeth
Hunger Games. What?
The Elizabeth Banks character?
Yeah. What was her name?
I don't remember.
Oh,
but anyway. I remember the actress's name.
I know.
Well, Fenton, I'm amazed about this, because to me, the movie Snowpiercer sort of it was what it was, and I didn't see how you could keep banging out episode after episode, because it's sort of like it was self-contained and it was perfect. I love the movie, but how do you get 5 seasons out of this premise?
They've got
a new train. There's a second
train, I guess. New character.
New train.
Trains.
It's 1,000 cars long, and it's like Hotel. It's like in every room there's a different story, and every carriage is a different story. And but the real breakout star is Rowan Blanchard. Do you know, she's a young girl, and she is Jennifer Connelly's estranged daughter. So when the train took off at the end of the world, season 1, she had to leave behind her daughter. And Mr. Wolford has her daughter. And when the two trains collide, she meets her daughter. And Rowan Blanchard is so amazing. She's like, she identifies in real life as queer, but her hair is cropped very short. And it's like a character I've never seen on TV before.
Now, Blake is saying that Rowan was on Disney's Girl Meets World, and that's where we first found her. And I just want to throw in that Effie Trinket was the character that Elizabeth Banks played. So,
right. And Effie Trinket was sort of master of ceremonies, wasn't she?
She just sort of was the go-between between the government.
I'm sold, Fenton. I'm going to watch it.
I feel I'm doing a terrible job describing it.
No, you'll be excited. I want to see it now.
They boil it into this really grotesque, Bosch-like world that's ridiculous and extreme and absurd, but somehow really compelling. And there's something about Jennifer Connelly. I cannot take my eyes off her.
She's great. She's really good. She's probably what would sell me on it. So
yeah, and
I'm going to start with season 2. Now that I have all the back.
So it's season 2. New episodes of Snowpiercer every Monday.
The movie, Seth? Did you ever see the movie, Seth?
Yeah, I saw the film. Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't know the premise. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, I didn't love the film, and I thought it was a silly idea. And so somehow I've ended up in this sort of Snowpiercer hole.
What is interesting, there are some TV series like Walking Dead that you think like, how can they keep going on and on? But then season 7, 8, 9 are the best that they do. You know, I mean, it's like some people just keep building up steam as they keep riffing on the same idea.
No pun intended.
No. Okay, the T.S. Madison Experience is coming to WeTV March 4th. That's from World of Wonder with T.S. Madison and the one and only New York, Tiffany Pollard. So set your DVRs for Thursday, March 4th, 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific time on WeTV. All right, time for another break. And then when we come back, we'll reveal the number one thing that made us go wow this week.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hey, welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James St. James and Seth Abramovitch. Yay!
Woo!
We've been counting down the top 10 things that make us go wow, and we've reached number 1.
Number 1.
What is number 1, Fenton?
Number one is, this seems to be a bit of a drag-centric show. Number one is UK Han.
Oh, song?
The United Kingdolls.
Ding dong, sing sang song. If you were anywhere on social media the last week, 2 weeks, you have been inundated with this song. It is the earworm to end all earworms. Who wrote it? Tell me the backstory. I want to know everything.
Scott Lopez and Brett McLaughlin wrote it, also known as Leland. And it's in episode 5. It's a Eurovision song contest, because as you probably know, the Eurovision Song Contest is a beloved institution. So we parody it in Drag Race, and the two competing teams in Drag Race have to record their own version with their own lyrics of UK Han, which goes something like UK Han, sing sang song, bing bang bong.
Bing bang bong, yes.
Ding dang dong, yes. And it has not one key change, but two, which I love. I love a double key change, you know?
In that final key change, it literally, I think I was tweeting or something like that, and all of a sudden my head snapped up, and I was like, what? It really is. It's an amazing song, and I think it's probably the best thing that Drag Race has ever. I think when Drag Race is all done in 50 years, and people will still be singing sing sang song ding ding dong bing bing bong.
UK Han, right? It's sort of it's sort of also for these dark times. It just seems to be an uplifting thing, right?
Barb and Star. Barb and Star.
Ding dang dong, ding morning.
And it currently is number 4 in the big top 40, which is the UK chart, and 1.1 million streams so far.
Well, now who's making money off of it? Is it you guys, or is it Leland, who the writer?
Well, you know, with music, there's all different money comes in from you get a sale from every unit sold, and money goes to the publisher, and money goes to the record label, and money goes to the artist. That's how.
Well, but is the record label World of Wonder Records? I mean,
it so happens that it is. Yes, it is.
Well, so you are making a shit ton of money off of this.
No, because you don't really, I believe, make money off music these days. In truth, music is like the appetizer or the amuse-bouche for your tour or your live acts. That's kind of how it works.
So who's performing? Like, I saw it was number 1 on iTunes. Who's the vocals? Is it Group 1 or Group 2?
It's the United Kingdolls, which is Group 1, which is Bimini Bombulash, Lawrence Cheney, Ellie Diamond, and
the one dressed like Spider-Man.
Tia Coffee? No.
Well, wait, wasn't that the one that also had Joe Black?
Joe Black is in Banana Drama.
Okay. So wait, are the Queens making any money off of this?
Yes, they'll make money off of it. Yes.
I'm sorry. No.
You're like an auditor. You're like, show your receipts.
No, when World of Wonder does well, then we all do well. And so I just want to make sure that everybody's making money so that we all can get our big raises at the end of the year.
Oh, we'll get our private islands. Yes, right.
Your Bing Bang bonus.
Yes, the Bing Bang bonus.
Well, I think that's all we have time for this week. Well, thank you, Seth. Thank you, James. Thank you, Blake. Same time, same place next week. In the meantime, put on your vagina-scented mask and go out and do something that makes the world go, wow!